What's up, guys, and welcome back to another edition of Competitive Edge Podcast. So our guest today, you're going to love this resume because not only has he written a phenomenal book, The Steady Leader, he's also got a podcast around it. He was a U.S. Army Ranger. He's got a real estate company, construction company, actually owns 4 laundromats. But more importantly, as I look at it, he also has a family. And so for those of you out there that your parents, you've got things you're doing, how can you show up and be the best leader inside your business, inside your family? I always say inside your home and then outside and lead people. So today we're going to break this down with Schuyler Williamson about not only his journey as a U.S. Army Ranger, but also how he has built a successful real estate company outside of Austin, Texas there. And more importantly, what has he learned along the way through those things that could help you in your journey? Whether you're in your 20s and you're trying to figure out entrepreneurship, trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, or you're somebody that you've been in the game for a while. I believe today you're going to get some of the lessons and some clarity, as Schuyler talks about, how do you move from chaos to clarity and move forward in your life and really attack and use the gifts that God's given you. So Schuyler, welcome to the show.
Man, I'm fired up to be here, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm honored. And I got to start here because, you know, very few of my friends, U.S. Army Ranger or SEAL, or you've done things that, let's be real, man, like not a lot of people have done that. And as I was going back through and kind of prepping and studying what you'd done, you know, I'm sure a large part of your leadership journey and what you learned was entering in and doing that. But let's give a little background into who you are and how you got into actually be an Army Ranger, because I love these stories.
Yeah, well, I grew up in a humble family, but full of love. So my parents are still married today. Great examples of not only how to love each other as a spouse, how to love your kids, but also just hard workers. And they both are of the type that went to work and worked for the same company for 30 years for my mother and 40 years for my father. And so they put their head down, they climbed the ladder, and they remained loyal. And so they instilled in me those kind of put your head down, be loyal, work hard, don't complain. They instilled that in me at a very young age. But financially, pretty early I figured out that if I wanted anything, I had to go create it myself. Yeah. And I remember having a conversation pretty early in my life, and I was always a mature kid. For whatever reason, God blessed me with maturity. And I'm the oldest of 3 brothers. So maybe that was the reason why, because I was just the oldest. But I remember having a conversation with my father pretty early that if you wanted to go to college, you were going to have to get it paid for yourself. And there's 2 ways to do that. You can just be extraordinarily smart and do really well in academics, or you can be an athlete. And I said, well, I like the athlete piece, so I'll just focus on that. And, whenever you put your head down and you work hard on something, my high school baseball coach used to say, you can't be a 3 to 5 player. And 3 to 5 was when practice was. So what he was saying is, if you wanted to make it, you had to do something before practice. You had to do something after practice. You can't just show up when everybody else is showing up and expect extraordinary results. Extraordinary effort gets you extraordinary results in a lot of things. And athletically, when you put in the extra time working out, put in the extra time recovery and just doing the skills and all the things, you get those results. I had a brilliant athletic career in high school, football and baseball. I had scholarship offers all throughout the U.S., but I had this one to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And again, kudos to my father, just kind of laying lessons out for me. But he sat me down and he said, hey, look, you might make it to the NFL if you go to the University of Miami. But chances are you'll get hurt or something will happen. Football's a tough sport. But if you go to West Point, you'll never have to worry like me and your mama always had to. And so that made it an easy enough decision for me to kind of make the choice that I wasn't going to play a professional sport, that I'm going to go to West Point and take care of my future. Now, when I chose to go to West Point, we weren't at war. So that made it an easier choice as an 18-year-old. Yeah. But nonetheless, still a very forward thought choice, right? I'm choosing my life beyond sports rather than gamble and try to make it to the NFL and maybe get a suboptimal education.
Yeah.
Well, I went to West Point. As fate would have it, they changed the rules halfway through, and I was able to go play a professional sport. But we came into a time of conflict, and I walked away from baseball after getting told, hey, we're going to have you come to spring training with the big league team. I walked away because my whole team from West Point was overseas fighting. And my younger brother had gone overseas and fought in the battle for Fallujah. And I mean, it was just so many people that I knew and loved were overseas. And so I made a decision to walk away from baseball and go into the military. Well, I'm not really an average person. I don't care to be. I want to do everything to the max that I have gifts that God's given me to do. Right. I believe in taking your gifts and going to double them.
That's right.
And and I was an athletic person, and so I believed I could be a warrior on the ground that was better than most. And the schools are very simple in the military. If you want to be of the elite, then you go to this school called Ranger School. And so just in me trying to be my best led me to Ranger School, and then all the things that I did in the military after that.
Yeah, I love that. And I saw that sports ground. I'm glad you brought up your background there, because I looked at that and I'm like, okay, let's be real. I mean, Schuyler, there's a lot of things you've done, and I'm going, okay, cool. Like multi-sport, and you're going in and you're successful and you're playing. And, similarly, I played soccer, of course, and got to live out that dream. And then, at some point we all know that doesn't last forever. And I got to imagine, as you look back and you think about the steady leader, are there things that you look back now, because I think it's always cool to look back on that you learned lessons that your dad, encouraged you, hey, let's go do this. Let's go this path, that you would give people, maybe with kids going to college. I got one going to college in the fall, another one 2 years behind and all. What advice would you give now on the parent side to people potentially of, hey, if you're sending your kids to college in the future, what do you know now?
Yeah. Well, so much of being a steady leader is being a thinker, right? I mean, I think every smart person who's in a leadership role, if asked the question, is it a part of your job to think? They would say yes, right? Like that, just intelligence tells you yes. But how many people do you know that are in leadership roles that actually have time to think, right? And if I were, my kids are a little younger than yours, so I've got some time here. But if I were about to send my kid off to college, I'd do a lot of what my father did for me and just say, hey, look, man, like let's sit down and let's cast a vision for your life, right? If you had a great life 5-10 years from now, what would that look like? Yeah. And I'd have them go through that exercise. And then I just like leaders do, I would just ask them the questions to back into what do they need to do to make that a reality, right? I mean, and you've been a part of coaching. Coaches just ask great questions, right? Right. I mean, a lot of performers, especially the ones that seek out coaching, know the right answer. They just need someone to challenge them and ask them the right questions to lead them to that. And so I would just ask my daughter, who's my oldest, what's your best life? That's called vision casting, babe. This is how you cast a vision as a leader. And, and the book's broken up into 3 parts: lead yourself, lead your team, lead your business. Yeah. I mean, right in that moment as a father, we're teaching them how to lead themselves, because the first step of leading yourself is having a good vision for your life. That's right. And that's what my dad was helping me do. He was helping me cast a vision. Do you want to gamble and play a sport for a living? Or do you want to be sure that your life will be stable and you'll have more than me and your mama had? Yeah. Well, I chose the latter. And really what that was doing was my first lesson in vision casting. And so as I moved on from them, it just continuously, right, as you're leading yourself, you're casting a vision for your life, and it changes, right? Vision's not like purpose. Purpose is evergreen. Vision changes directions, right? Because we can only see as far as we can see. And certainly right now with technology and some of the other things, that it just changes so fast, right? And it's funny, I'm a follower of EOS. Like I love Gino Wickman's system. And he has you do the 10-year, right? And then the 3-year and then the 1 year when you're casting your vision. Well, the 10-year is almost like, why do we even do that anymore?
So far out.
Yeah, it's just so far out. And but you look as far as you can.
That's right.
You cast that vision. So I would just help my kids do that. And
I love that.
And I do that for myself all the time.
Well, I had to ask, and I love you broke up the book, because I was going to ask you about that. Is leading yourself, and a lot of times I know as a new leader, and I was captain on the soccer team and fumbling through, like figuring out what is leadership, and you model after other people. And I know you talked about that. A lot of your lessons were modeling after others that you saw. if somebody's listening to this, and okay, the steady leader, how do they best lead themselves? Because I'm in that camp with you. If you can't lead yourself, it is really hard, if almost impossible, to then lead others.
Yeah. You have to show up and be your best if you're going to lead a great team, right? Like we don't have championship teams without every player looking like a champion.
Right.
Eventually you'll be exposed as a fraud by a better team if you're not all together, and that starts with you as the leader. Again, a lot of it's just thinking, right? To me, living a successful life and running a great business is simply just how many good decisions can you stack in a row? Mm-hmm. To the extent that you can make a good decision and a good decision and a good decision just continuously, you're going to have steady production. And I think that we owe it to our teams and we owe it to ourselves to be thinkers so that we can respond in moments, not react.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
And chaos would attack you in your business to get you to react to things. And some of us are super clever and witty, and we can react better than most. But your chances of answering those problems correctly increase, even for the witty ones, if you have clarity and you're actually leveraging models to think through what could happen, right? Yeah. And so I think as a leader, leading yourself, these are the kind of the 5 tenets that I work through: is vision, being combat ready, this thing I call love, which is pursuit of excellence, energy, and then a plan to win. And when you work through those 5 buckets and you just kind of do those continuously, you're going to lead yourself to being the best that you can be. And because John Maxwell's taught us a lot of this stuff. Two things: as a leader, you will be the lid of your business. If you stop growing, if you stop leading yourself, you will cap your business. You will either have to get out of the way or you'll settle with mediocre, right? And people will pass you. And then the second thing about leading is you have to have influence, right? That's what Maxwell defines leadership as, is influence. Well, you have to lead your life in such a way that people see something in you that they want. And it can be what you look like physically. It can be what you are paper wealth wise, financially. It can be the business you're building. It can be how healthy you are spiritually. But you have to have something in your life that your teammates look at you and say, "Daggum, I'm going to follow him because I want that in my life." And the cool thing is there are people part of my company because they want something that I have spiritually. There are people on my team that follow me because they want to build wealth like I have, and it just runs the full gamut. But the point is, to be that person, you got to lead yourself, right? And then you'll have influence when you've done that well.
Hey guys, it's Brian here. I hope you are enjoying the show. By the way, if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur looking to grow your personal brand, make a bigger impact, maybe increase your leads and grow your revenue, let's help you get started today by connecting up with my friends over at the Brand Builders Group. You've heard me talk about them, but if you're new here, this is definitely the first step to get you started in turning your reputation into revenue. Head over to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey. Again, to set up your free brand call, go to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey to set up a free strategy call with one of the team at Brand Builders, and they will dive into your specific goals for how you want to grow your personal brand. I can't wait to hear how it goes. You talking about that? So I was listening to one of my favorite guys, Ed Milet, was sharing these 4 levels of leadership, and you get through, just the baseline you manage because you have a title and you've been given that authority, and you move into motivation. And we know motivation is basically like a shower every day, right? Zig would say that. And you got inspirational leaders. And you just triggered something for me as I was thinking, Schuyler's sort of this 4th level, which most never get to or maintain, which is aspirational. And I love your response. People are following because they see in you your spiritual walk. They see a physical side. They see, your ability and discipline and finances, right? And being able to build wealth and to budget and do things. I think for a lot of people, they miss that. They just want to skip over. And it's like, I hear this all the time, especially in our mortgage and real estate. It's like, well, I just want to, manage and have a big team and lead a bunch of people and all these things. And I'd love for you to help someone if they're in that spot and their aspiration and their desires, they do want to lead all these people, maybe not for the right reasons. They kind of hadn't figured it out. I know I struggled with that early in my career.
Yeah.
What are the things on a daily basis that they can start intentionally doing? I think about keeping the promises to yourself, but anything you found in your journey that helps them start to build that muscle, right? Like the real tactics.
Yeah. Well, listen, you got to have the table set to do everything else really well. And so I think you've got to be clear on your purpose, the purpose you have for your life. If you know why you wake up every day and get after it at your life level, then you will hustle every day. You will give it your all. And then we can go work on some of the other tactical stuff. But you got to know what your purpose is. And here's the thing. Your purpose has to be about other people. And I'll just tell a quick story just to drive that point home. Ranger school, we talked about earlier, but it's tough. It is tough. I lost 55 pounds in 63 days or, however many days it was.
Wow.
And it just wore me down. And I thought about quitting nonstop. Now, thank God I didn't. I was able to endure and kind of push through. And that was with the help of some teammates and just, I guess, inner endurance. But I thought about quitting all of the time. Fast forward to my time in Iraq and Afghanistan. I not one time ever thought about quitting. Now, in Ranger school, my life was never at risk. It was very controlled. It was a training environment. In those combat zones, I was getting blown up. I pulled grenade shrapnel out of my body armor. I kicked open doors, and it was like a cartoon where the bullets just kind of went over the doorway. And that was just a regular Tuesday, right? It was nonstop, but I never thought about quitting.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I was in combat with a team that I cared about, that I would never let them down. I was there serving a country that I love, that country that hosts my family that I love. I'm not going to let them down, right? In Ranger school, I was there for a badge, okay? I was there for a certification. I was there for a trophy. And it's more to that, but I'm making it simple so that we can understand.
Yeah.
I was there for myself. Nobody else cared whether I went to Ranger school or not. It was just about me. And that's why I was willing to quit. There is a point that's closer to the start that you'll quit if it's about you. If your purpose is about you, you will quit.
That's right.
Now, if you're doing it for others, you'll never quit. You'll just give it and you'll work yourself to the bone, and to the end, you'll work. Gladly would I give my life for another.
Yeah.
It's for another. That's the key part of that. Man. And so you gotta have that purpose dialed in. With the purpose, kind of the end of destination, then you can create that vision, and vision gives you general direction, right? Then you can create a plan for yourself, because you can backwards kind of engineer that vision to today and logically create the next couple of steps and the priorities for yourself. And then at that point, then it's just kind of getting yourself ready to go, right? Can I be in the military? We call it combat ready. And that is, if you're handed a mission right now, can you go and operate like right away? Yeah. And to be combat ready as an individual in business, you need to be really healthy as a leader. And healthy is mentally healthy, physically healthy, and spiritually healthy for me. Yeah. And the way I think about it is, picture yourself on a boat, okay? And you're sitting on a stool in the middle of the boat. Well, mental health is one leg, physical health is a second leg, and spiritual health is two other legs, right? So it makes a four-legged stool. Well, when things are all kind of calm, right? When there's a lack of chaos in your life, well, yeah, if you're athletic, you can sit on a two-legged stool. Yeah, no sweat. Now, as soon as chaos enters your life and those waves start to rock that boat, you're going to need all four, right? And so you need to be healthy if you're going to be a steady leader, right? And mentally healthy means you have a growth mindset. Physically healthy, I love the way the Stoics talk about it. Are you in control of your body, or is your body in control of you? Like, does your body tell you to hit the snooze button, or do you say, get up, it's time to go, baby. We got to do these things to get better every day. And then spiritually healthy, I like to summarize it this way. When you wake up in the morning, do you wake up and think, what am I going to get? Or do you wake up and say, this is what I'm going to give the world? To the extent that you wake up every day and you are excited to go give the world something, that's how healthy you are spiritually. And but those things are all tactical to me. Like the morning routine, the planning, like how I plan, all of that stuff's tactical. But you do have to have that purpose and vision. I mean, you have to have those things dialed in so that every day you can tap into something that's never going to run out. Because if you saw how hard I worked, you'd be like, daggum, maybe I don't want that. But the reason why I want it is because I got a big purpose.
That's right. Man, you take me back to it. Fires me up. Number one is everything you're saying I align with, which I love. I was excited for this conversation because of that. And then two, I mean, think about in college, like the times that you didn't want to go out there and sometimes compete at the best level or do some of the physical training. We'll just call it like some of the physical training. And you're like, but I got a team counting on me, right? Like there's people that you would do. And I always think about that in my life, the times that I have gone further or that I have pushed through an obstacle or boundaries, there's people counting on me, whether it's my family, the team that I serve, all of those. And so I don't want people to miss that, is that purpose being bigger. I love. And then I love you talked about being combat ready. I'd love to go a little deeper and think about, people today, if they're in business, right? I think about like mortgage, real estate. We got a lot of people there.
Yeah.
What's some things that they need to think about? How can they be combat ready? Because, we're in this market, this is, it feels as if there's a group and a smaller group that's winning. They're up, they're performing. Like you were talking about earlier, you guys have sold 40 million this year?
Yeah. Year to date. Yeah.
Year to date. And I just think about, okay, you guys, you're winning, but then there's these other people that are not combat ready. So what does it take today, more specific, like in real estate and mortgage and in this economy we're in, to get combat ready?
Yeah, well, we can just start with just the mental health of things, right? Just being combat ready from a mental health standpoint. When you are in a growth mindset and then you're challenged with something, how would you respond when you have a growth mindset? Yeah. I mean, you attack it, right? If you don't have the growth mindset and then challenges hit you, you kind of fall into that victim mindset. And, in a victim mindset, it's really hard to take action because your brain is stuck in a fear or hurt based kind of mode, right? And a lot of this is just understanding your brain and the brain of your people, right? So as a leader, I've got to understand how my team's brain's working. And the most primitive feelings that we have in our brain is fear and hurt. And it drives our survival, right? And your brain's always trying to predict what's going to happen based on fear and hurt, not the positive stuff, right? Yeah. And you got to know that. And so, when you're talking to your team, you need to understand that they're probably in a fear mode. And you need to understand why they're fearful, right? They're fearful because there's uncertainty. And then you got to get them in control. And so much of our businesses in real estate comes down to your lead generation, how you understand and work your database, and how consistent you can be. And I mean, that's oversimplifying it, but it can be that simple. And we have to have lead generation mechanisms that work in the good times and in the bad times. And then we also, as a leader, need to be thinking all of the time, like, well, if the market did this is how I'll respond, right? I'm not going to react. I'm going to respond. And I do a good bit of that thinking. It's my job as the leader to be one step ahead of the team and to pull them there. I don't got to be 10 steps ahead of them. That's where most people fall short. Like they think they got to be 10 steps ahead. Yeah. And it looks like I'm 10 steps ahead because I'm always pulling them to that next rung. But the reality is I'm one step up the ladder and I'm just pulling them there, right? And as soon as I get them to that step, then I'm taking the next step and pulling them there. And so I look like a genius and this guy that just like is way ahead of everything. But the reality is I'm one step ahead. And that's my job as the leader, is to be one step ahead. What can we lead generate around that gives us an advantage in this moment, right? And I think that our approach as real estate agents has made us pretty good at this on my team, because I build lead generation around each person's unique value, because I know, we're 5 to 7 years in between transactions, right? And things are normal. And so I've got to find 5 to 7 ways or 5 to 7 years worth of value to give somebody just to hold them close. And so, for me, what that might look like is I know how to run a business. I am your real estate agent, but I can teach you how to lead, and I can teach you how to grow a business or a side hustle. I can teach you how to build wealth. And, and I do this for my database. And so I've got people at all levels coming to me to solve business problems, wealth problems, to talk spiritually, like kind of how can they take that next step? And it's keeping me in conversation with my database in my strength zone. And they love it. And they all know I'm in real estate, because I do tell them I'm in real estate. I just happen to be pouring value into their life from a leadership perspective or some other way. Right. And so what I would challenge people with, if you're in a hard time, and first you gotta be positive, right? You have to have that growth mindset. Negative thoughts help you expose problems, but no problem was ever solved with negativity. At some point, you got to turn positive to solve a problem. So you got to be in that growth mindset. You got to be thinking so that you can respond and build value around your uniqueness that gives you a reason that you feel really good about to reach out to people. I mean, I got a person on my team who loves to declutter and loves old folks. And so she does all of this stuff, events and things like this around decluttering and kind of helping older folks find retirement communities.
Yeah.
You think that part of her database is growing or shrinking? No, it's growing.
Yeah, I was going to say, she's good spot.
Yeah, old folks are trying to downsize all the time. I mean, that's a part of the business. And I got another gal who, she's really good on camera. She knows makeup, and she, kind of knows design, and she builds a lot of value around that. I mean, I just find, what is it that you feel really good at teaching people, and then just go teach the world, and just make sure that they know you're in real estate too. And that's how we communicate with now we do a lot of the traditional things too, like open house, all that stuff too. But we build around our uniqueness. We understand that's where you want to advertise and market to, is your uniqueness as an individual, what you feel best being valuable at.
Man, I love that. So we work with Brand Builders Group, and they'll have a commercial within the podcast today. People hear it as well, but they always talk about that as your uniqueness. And Rory Vaden, he and his wife AJ had that up. And Rory shares this quote about, you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. Yeah. And I always think about all the experience, the things you're sharing, that's the value I would want. I think about in mortgage, real estate, financial services. Yes, there's things that you do, but we all know there's years in between some of those actual transactions that occur in the times that we're really solving the big problem. What a cool way that you guys are doing it. So I'd love to expand on that uniqueness piece. How do you then get the uniqueness? I know you guys have a newsletter. Are there other tactics with social? How do you get that uniqueness? Sounds like you've identified it, you've packaged a little bit. Then how do you distribute it? Because I think a lot of people struggle. Schuyler, it's they may kind of know what they do. They may tell a few people, but they don't really go at it like this. So I'd love to learn how you guys are packaging it and distributing it. Yeah.
Well, it can look a lot of different ways. Okay. We do have the newsletter. The reason why we do the newsletter, and this isn't Schuyler. I've learned this model from other people. I own my newsletter, right? Nobody can rip that away from me. I own that. We're building a YouTube channel, but that can be ripped away, right? If YouTube chose to, they could take that away from me, and they've done that to people that have built big channels for one reason or another. They violated the policies that they have, and when that's gone, it's gone, right? And so I think you have to be understanding of what captures your building and what processes you're building that you own, and the things that you don't own. Yeah. And the things that you don't own, point them all to what you do own. Yeah. Right. And then just really just make the things that you own just next level valuable. And I like Rory and the team too. They're real clear about who their target customer is, right? And speaking to that person. When you know exactly who you're speaking to, then you can pour a ton of value into that. Yeah. And that, again, that's what we're doing on our team, is we know exactly who we're talking to, and then we pour value into it. And I talk leadership enough to people that I was like, all right, well, I'll just go write a book, right? I'll write this leadership book. Yeah. And this is a perfect opportunity for me to call people and talk to them. Yes. At first I was selling books, but they know I'm in real estate. And you kind of laughed about it. I was like, I'm a part-time book salesman now. But I tell them a couple of real estate stories just so they know that I'm still heating it up, Yeah. But then, after I do that, then I get to call them all back and say, well, what'd you learn? Let's talk about it. Oh, by the way, can you leave me a review? Can you tell your friends? Guess what? When they tell somebody else about the book, and then that person goes into, that website to learn more and kind of download some of the content that you can with a book, where do you think those names are going? They're going into my real estate database,
yes.
right? Like it's a leadership book, but it's a form of lead gen where it's capture, and I'm working people down back to the database where I can communicate to them again about real estate.
Yeah. Love it.
Mission Home Builders, our construction company, under a completely separate brand. But when we send out mailers saying, hey, Mission will buy your house, where do you think when those people respond or they click on that link to sell us their house, where do you think they go? Yeah. They go right into my real estate sales database.
Love it.
Any kind of event that we do to kind of just teach wealth building or whatever, like all goes back to the database. So we're not doing anything unique. We're running events, but they're steady leader events, right? They're not, hey, come get my apple pie. Like I'm not the realtor that does those types of events. We're doing wealth building events. We're building houses, right? And we're hosting happy hours in our houses that we're building and inviting our investors to invest in our spec deals if they want to, right? Yeah. And that keeps our investors close to us because I have my agents at the house too. When we're teaching, we just nonstop are just teaching and trying to provide value. And as long as you have your mix of real estate versus other value right, they'll always know that real estate's your core. You're just giving them value in other ways. And that's the key.
That's it. Man, I love how you outlined it. And for anybody listening, go back and rewind that and write down some things. And I would encourage you to look at, okay, what are the things that you're doing? What are some of the things Schuyler went through that you're like, oh, I should be doing that, whether it's events or you're funneling everybody in. And I love that kind of focus and lead magnet, the brand of the steady leader funnels these people are potential buyers and sellers all the time. And
everybody needs shelter.
Yeah. I love that. Well, before we get into the entrepreneurial side, because I know you mentioned that with laundromats, you got those things cranking, you got the construction company, all that. I'd love to talk about that next phase. We move out of leading ourselves. It's about leading the team. Yeah. Are there things that, people that are listening today, you see these themes, and I always think about patterns that emerge, and you're really good at this, is seeing the patterns. What are the best leaders today doing in this environment, right? Because we have this hybrid that still exists after COVID and all these things of like virtual people across the country. I know our teams all across the country, different time zones. Some are in an office, some are not in an office. And what are those things to really lead the team well that you found, or those pillars, right? Staples of leading a team well?
Yeah, I think first is a mindset of, I don't want to surround myself with followers. I want to surround myself with leaders. For someone that's got a team that's spread throughout the U.S., you can't do everything. Yeah. And so you're going to lead your core 4 or 5, right? We have to obey the span of control rule. If you're leading more than 5 to 7 people, you're babysitting. You literally can't produce because all you're doing is answering questions all day long. That's and so you've got to find a way to keep your direct reports to 5, maybe 7, if you're kind of ramping up to that next leader, but ideally 5 people. Because if you have 5 people reporting to you that are leaders, they'll go lead the team, but you also can lead them and still produce, right? Like you and I are where we are today because we're good producers. Yeah. Okay. So it's still, for our company, we still have to produce. It just looks a little differently now. We're out trying to land wells or the next opportunity for people to invest in or whatever that might be. But you got to surround yourself with leaders. Okay. Once you've surrounded yourself with leaders or you have that core team, then it becomes a vision exercise again, because you need people to understand the direction that they're moving. And you have a vision for the team, but then you're going to have a vision for each individual player. And this might be where the kind of the uniqueness for what I do comes in. And I look at it as the offensive coordinator, right? So, I love football. I was better at baseball, but I love football. The offensive coordinator looks at their offense and says, at a high level, the vision for this thing, we're going to be the best running offense, or we're going to be the best passing offense, or we're going to be the fastest offense, right? We're going to run with tempo, whatever it might be, right? They have a vision for the offense, but then they have a vision for every player on that team. And so do you think the vision that the offensive coordinator has for their offensive tackle is the same vision that they have for the wide receiver? No, man. I mean, just physically, they got to look different, right? And their jobs look different, and success looks different, and how you talk to them is probably different. Like the way they prepare for games is different. Like everything's different. And so what you got to acknowledge is when you're leading your team, yes, there is a vision for the team, but every individual you have to have a vision for. If I hit it out of the park with this person in 3 to 5 years, this is what they look like. And so you're leading the team to a vision, but you're leading people to a vision, right? And so when you have your one-on-one meetings with a teammate that you have a vision for, like how much better are those one-on-ones going to be? Mm-hmm. I mean, you know where you're taking that person. And if you can get them there, think about where your team's going to be. Yeah. And I'm real clear about that, right? And so I've got a vision for the team and for each individual, and I've got plans for both, right? And then what I train to is based on that. Right. I'll train the team based on that team vision. Right. And then I'll train each individual with who I need them to be if they're going to be the successful person in the future. Right. And I ask them too, like, I want them to know, like, hey, I see you as a leader in our business in the future. Is that what you want? Right. And if they tell you no, well, that's great. Like you have some clarity there and you can change their vision for them.
That's right.
But don't just go map out someone's life and not know what they want. Right. Like you got some of this is kind of just talking back and forth too, to expose the reality of things. And so, then we train, right? In my one-on-ones, we've got our plan that takes us in the direction of our vision, right? And then we break it up into quarterly big rocks, right? Yeah. Just true to EOS. And then every one-on-one, I'm asking them, first I always ask them how they're doing, right? Because if the person isn't healthy, then they don't care about any of your professional stuff, right?
That's
and
right.
So if the only thing we do in a one-on-one is take care of the person, then that's what we have to do because that's the most important thing. So I check on the person, and then I ask them how last week went. And what I'm listening for is, did you stay focused on the things that we call the priority, that we call the big rock for your next quarter? And I'm listening, right? And hopefully what I'm hearing is, yes, I stayed on priority. Some things I was able to accomplish and do really well. Some things I struggled with. Right. And I'll try to plug in there as their leader. I'll try to plug in and be who they need me to be to help in those problem areas. Well, then we say, okay, well, what's your plan for this next week? And what I'm listening to again is, are you on priority? Have you thought about the vision? And do you understand the plan and the priority for this next week? And if they don't, I redirect them. Right. And then we settle on what we're going to talk about next week. So we know what the big rocks are for the week. And then I just usually ask them, hey, where do you need me to plug in more? Mm-hmm. Just ask them that. And if sometimes they say, you're awesome, you're doing good, don't need you anywhere. But sometimes they have somewhere where they need you to plug in. And that's an awesome answer to have, because then you can go be more valuable to them, right? And that helps with retention and their growth and everything.
That's right.
But then I ask them, hey, where am I in your business that I can unplug from? Like you don't need me anymore. And that's awesome for me because it saves me time, makes them feel less like I'm micromanaging. There's a whole lot of other great things. Yeah. And then we high five and I send them out. And, we do that in 30 minutes. But when you have a vision, when you have a plan, when you're holding them accountable, and then you're kind of like leading by example and training them and, doing great kind of innovative things as their leader, the team's going to be successful. It's going to be steady. There's going to be growth.
Yeah. I love that. Man, for anybody listening, I think that's the game, right? And I love that you broke down the one-on-ones. You broke down you having the vision calls with them and actually mapping out. And I love that you shared this too, Schuyler. It's like what we might think is the vision for them, and we see in them, they may not see in themselves. And just meeting them where they are and helping them go through that, critical. The best leaders in my life met me there.
Yeah. Amen. And I learned this from somebody, so that's why I get to do it, right? Because I got to work under a great leader. But I do it right up front in the interview process because I need to know that you're aligned with where I'm going. Because if we're aligned and I help you get what you want, then I'm going to get what I want.
That's right.
And that's an awesome place to be, to push you to get what you want so that I get what I want. We're going to run real fast because we're just completely aligned.
That's right.
And then if there's ever conflict later down the road, then I got to say, like, well, wait a minute. Like, you told me when I hired you, this is what you wanted in your life. Has things changed? And sometimes things change, Brian. That's why we got to stay connected to the person. because sometimes things change. And if they changed and we're no longer aligned, then it might be the right time for us to help you go find somewhere where you can be more aligned. Nobody wants to come to work and not be aligned.
No.
It just doesn't feel good.
No. We know it. Everybody knows it around, and they're just waiting for that day and that opportunity. And so I love the chance to get to lead. It's always that great opportunity. And I love the way you've laid it out. I'm going to leave the leading the business so people can go get the book, because I want them to go get that.
Yeah,
and
perfect.
Speaking of business, man, I got to ask this, because the entrepreneurial journey, we're big fans of Shark Tank. And I always think about entrepreneurial journey, and I'm going through years and I'm like, everything's making sense to me. Construction company, real estate stuff. You're going through that. I'm like, okay, laundromat. Okay, 4 of those, and you're talking about what you're doing there. What's the biggest lesson you've learned, and let's keep it relatively recent, in the last year maybe, about entrepreneurship and having these multiple companies that you've got there? Maybe something you wish you had known years ago when you got into this, but an entrepreneurial lesson that's transferable.
Man, it's easy for me. I don't know why I didn't trust people. And I think it might be the way I grew up. I grew up in a rough neighborhood where you really couldn't trust people. They were always out to get what they needed to survive, and they would take yours to have it. And I think because of that, I never trusted people enough to partner with them in business, right? Because I believed in myself, and it was hard for me to believe in other people, to think like I did. Like I would give to somebody else before I would partner with them.
Yeah.
But if you look at what I've been able to accomplish in the short amount of time that I've been able to accomplish it, it's only because I'm 100% willing to partner with people now. Mm-hmm. If you are going to make my business and myself better than who I am today, then I'll partner with you. And I think that aha, that I don't have to own it 100%. Mm-hmm. That has enabled me to do extraordinary things. And you talk about the laundromat. The laundromat is such a unique thing, but if I wasn't willing to partner with the right people, I'd never be able to do it. And so I'll just tell a quick story. We invested in a commercial retail center. Okay. And we had 2 vacant spots, 3 leased, right? So it's 5 unit retail center. Okay. And we bought it right. So even with the 3 units leased, we were cash flowing. So we were already okay. But we're not average. We want exceptional, right? And so we juiced the value of the real estate by getting the vacancies leased. We were able to get the 4th space leased pretty quickly, but the 5th space, we just couldn't get that thing leased. I mean, we were a year and a half into it, trying to give all this free rent and all this TI allowance and all this stuff, and we just couldn't get it leased. Yeah. And I'm not a commercial real estate broker. I'm a residential broker, but it's my money in the deal, and I'm along the journey with them. So we started to think, well, what businesses could we plug in there that would be similar to real estate, but would bring value to the retail center, could pay market rent, and would bring value to the co-tenants, right? And we looked at restaurants, we looked at all kinds of stuff, and laundry was a good fit. And so we put the laundromat in there, and we found the right person to lead that business and paid market rent, so it juiced the value of the real estate. But that customer comes every single week. Yeah. And so our ability to go increase rents with the other tenants kind of went through the roof, because they love that laundromat being an anchor tenant, bringing their people in all the time. And so what we ended up doing was changing our whole commercial real estate investment strategy to find them places we could plug a laundromat into. Like, we wouldn't buy it unless we could plug a laundromat into one of the vacant spaces and bring value to the center. And you do that 4 times, you understand, like, I know how to run this business now. We've got a great playbook, and that's why we franchised it. And listen, I can't run my real estate sales company the way that I can without the great people I have in it. I can't be a part of the construction company without the great people there. And I surely can't run a laundromat without the great people I have there. And I already told you, my mindset is 5 people report to you. Mm-hmm. And so no matter how big our organization is, it's going to be 5 that report to you. Yeah. And you just got to find a way to let them lead the rest. And that's how you're able to do it. That's how you're able to grow your empire and still keep your sanity, still be the dad and the husband you want to be. And things just keep getting bigger, man. You just partner with people. It's changed my life. it's changed my life.
I love it, man. It's such a good story too. And similarly, some of the best deals we've done, they were with partners and people that I didn't know as much, but I brought something to the table. They brought other things to the table, and they did that. And as I'm thinking about that, Schuyler, if somebody's listening, they're like, okay, man, that sounds great for you and all these things you've done. But if somebody's looking to partner and they're like, you know what, I do really well in this area. Maybe it is real estate, maybe it is mortgage. Like, how do I go seek out these partnerships and use my talents and use my gifts and even seek out a partner like that? Because I've had people ask me, and I kind of know my answer, but I'd love yours. How do people get in the game over there?
Yeah, you've got to find people that are after the same purpose and have similar values as you. And so I come off really outgoing on this kind of like channel of media, right? But I'm behind a screen and it's just talking to you. So, but I'm not a super outgoing person. When I'm on a stage or when I'm talking to a group of people, I'm performing. I'm a task guy. I wake up in the morning, so I see that opportunity as a task that I can accomplish. I'm not naturally just going out and networking and talking to people. But when I understood this, and I understood that really at a high level, I wanted to bring love to the world, and I need good people to help me build something where we can touch a lot of lives. Yeah. Then it became a part of just the mission that I was on. And so, everywhere I go, I'm kind of like running a scenario through my head. Every time I talk to somebody, it's kind of this process maybe, and I'm kind of making this up on the spot, but I think it'll help the folks. Every person I meet, I ask myself first, can you teach me something, right? And so if you could teach me something, I'm a learner, I want to be better, I got a growth mindset, teach me something. Then I'm asking myself, well, can you work for me? Can you help me build my empire? Right? And then I'm asking myself, well, if you can't work for me, then are you going to be a customer of mine? Right? And then if you're not going to be a customer of mine, then I just ask myself, well, what can I give you that, might help your life? Yeah. And so I'm every person, I'm working through that thought process of what can you teach me? Can you work for me? Will you be a client? What can I do for you? Like every person, I'm doing that. So I don't miss any opportunities with people to do that. And the cool thing is really what I'm doing, Brian, is I'm walking with open hands. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm very willing to give you all that I have, but because my hands are open, I can accept things from you too. Yeah. And so like it's a give and take, and kind of I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of mentality to just trying to bring love to the world. And a lot of people I may only talk to once in their life, and that's okay. But more times than not, I'll connect with someone because I'm genuinely trying to help them in some way in their life. And then we just have more and more conversations. And it's not that conversation that usually turns into a partnership. It's somebody saying, hey, I met a guy that just reminded me of you, and I thought you guys should meet. And then they connect us, and it's like my brother from another mother. I meet with them. I'm like, man, I've been missing you my whole life. We should have been working together the whole time. And then we find a way, right? And it's intentional. You're just always talking, and just got a web, right? Putting the web out there, and you're capturing and bringing them in.
Yeah, that's a cool model, and I'm gonna use that because I think about that, but not in that detail of. When I meet people, I'm like, okay, well, God, what is the intention of this? And how can I serve them? What's the connection they need? Where is their advice? Where is their, just opportunity? And I think if we all look in our life, like we come across people every day. Yeah. You just never know what would be there. Yeah. So I love that open hands. Just that's going to stick with me.
Well, you just got to be a thought leader, right, Brian? Like this past weekend, I went and spoke at an event called Fitness and Faith. Yeah. And had never met the guy before, but he read the book. And he knew that I was a businessman that loved Jesus. Yeah. And he's like, hey, I'm hosting this event called Fitness and Faith. I'd love you to come and talk about the faith piece. Yeah. And the only reason why that opportunity came to me was because I was putting out valuable content and just kind of open hand sharing with the world what I've learned. Yeah. Right. And I think the more you do that, it's just going to come back. You're going to get opportunities. And so I got to talk to 100 people. And they all know I'm in real estate. I was sure to share that And then we focused on faith, but it was good. I mean, that's just that open hand approach. I think it really works.
Oh, it does. And it ties back to the uniqueness, who you are, your talents, and the things you've got. So, man, I know we could jam. I feel like a brother from another mother there. As I was prepping I was super excited about this because I'm like, man, we align up on so many things. And these are the people that I want to be around and associated with, learn from, and share with our audience. And so I always say this, everybody that's listening to the show is, man, I want great guests like you, where your pedigree and what you're doing and what you're building is inspirational and aspirational for those people to go, man, Schuyler's over here doing it. I can take a few pages out of his playbook. I can go lead better at home. I can go lead my team better, lead myself better, right? Like I can go and play big in the world. And so, dude, thank you for sharing your gifts with us today.
It's my pleasure.
Last question of anything that's just on your heart or that I didn't ask. I always love this. Anything that maybe God's teaching you right now or anything you want to leave people with, just kind of a final thought or message.
It's a good question. We've sold some real estate this year, but I've sold more in the past, right? I'm the same as you all in that way that, it's tough to sell real estate in Austin.
Yeah.
And I talk to God every morning, and I believe that everything that I go through is preparing me for someone that I can help in the future. Like I know that. And so I'm always asking, God, what are you teaching me in this moment? How can I achieve wisdom from this adversity to make me a better man? And I just want the people that are listening and got this far to know that everything we have is a gift. Yeah. Everything. The struggles, the talents, the resources, the timing in business. So much of my business success is just timing. Mm-hmm. Everything we have is a gift, and you are to steward those gifts. And it isn't about you. It's about what you can bring this world. Can you be someone that multiplies love for other people and just help them grow spiritually so that they wake up every morning and they think about what they can bring the world and not what they're going to get themselves. If we could teach more leaders that and get them to think that way, this world would be a lot easier for our leadership to lead. Yeah, it would just run itself, and that's really what we need. We need that, and so I would just encourage people to seek that spiritual health, to talk to God every morning, and be humble and think like, what am I learning that I need to go help someone else in the future. Because that's the point. Yeah. Man, closed out strong. Well, brother, thank you. This has been incredible, and I cannot wait to share this with everybody. Guys, this is why we bring on great guests. And if you're not following Schuyler, we're going to have his information there. You can link up The Steady Leader. Go grab the book. If you're a leader today, I would tell you what a great way for you to go grab the book, go through it with your team, and actually share some things from today. I always say this too, is then grab the podcast, grab some excerpts that you loved, bring it back. The action you take as a result of this conversation has probably sparked something in you where you say, I want to get better here. I could improve there. And it's all in that bigger purpose that Schuyler talked about today. So if you would, if you've listened through and you've been following us for a while, leave us a review, share this with your friends. That's how we get this out in other people's hands. And I believe that ripple effect of us sharing these quality conversations, putting that in front of people. So we're thinking about the right things. We're using our talents and actually honoring God with what we've done there. That's how we change the world. Just one share at a time. Yeah. That review, share it with a friend, and then take this back to your team, especially if you're a leader or to your family. This is going to be a book that I recommend to several leaders that I talk with right now. And make sure you follow Schuyler, give him a shout out, and let us know if something has resonated with you. As I always love that feedback of what stood out, maybe something you want to hear more of or we can help you with. So make sure you reach out to us. And then until the next episode, guys, go out there and do something great. You've heard it from Schuyler today, but that bigger purpose is what pulls you forward. If you're in a tough season right now or you're facing some of those challenges, the best way to move forward is to serve others, I found. So this is a great way to go do that. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode. See ya.